Hello everyone and welcome to another video of Red Dragon. Today what we are going to do is not to see any game or any battle. We are actually going to pay a visit to a deck that, we didn't take a look in the closed beta. So it's time to take a look at it. It's, of course, the Blue Dragons, the Blue Force alliance of Japan and South Korea, which is pretty strong concept because we all know that Koreans and Japanese don't mix very well. But how anyway, you can pick a combined deck of Japanese and Korean units. So we are going to do it as we did the previous decks. We are going to take a look at the different categories, and in sequence we are going to take a look at the Japanese first, the Korean later. So we begin with the logistics. The logistics, we have the command infantry, Honbuhan, with a truck, a Humvee, and Huey 8, and a KB 107, which is, as you can see, is a Chinook. As command vehicles, you have the Mitsubishi CV, which is actually pretty little less than a Jeep. The Nachi Shiki CV, APC command vehicle. The Nana-san Shiki, another APC command vehicle. And the Nanayon Ashiki, which is a command tank. Not especially armored, but well, this is the command tank you get. Now, as for logistics transports, you have the Chugata Cargo, which is a pretty simple truck. Of course, you have an FOB, and then you have the Chinook. Well, it's a pretty small version of the Chinook. Those are the Japanese logistics. Now let's take a look at the South Korean. The South Korean get the Bonbu infantry with a truck, a KM900 APC, and an UH-18. You have a command jeep, the KM 113A1, which is actually a M113, the K277, and the M48 A3CV as the command tank. Then you also have a chopper, a command chopper, a Huey, a Chinook for transporting logistics, an FOB, and a cargo truck. Next in line we have the infantry. Let's start with the Japanese. And let's go roll by roll. First, anti-aircraft. The Japanese get the PSAM, which is actually this is a Stinger. Can come in the Humvee, the Nana-san Shiki, and the UH-18. Then you have the proper Stinger in the same options. Now the Koreans. Well, let's move on first and see anti-tank for the Japanese. The Japanese get an ATGM unit, the 2 MAT, and the Jeep, the Nana-san Shiki, and the Huey. And then they also get an infantry squad of 5 with a rocket launcher and an assault rifle, which is the M67 Han. And you get them in the Humvee, in the Nana-san Shiki, the Hachikyu Shiki, which is actually this is an infantry fighting vehicle, not an APC, and the Huey. And finally, for rifle, you can see the Japanese don't get engineers. You have the Kyoto Tai, which is shock. You can see it here. This is shock infantry, and they come in Humvees, helicopters, or Chinooks. The Kutei, which are elite troops, and come in 2 flavors: the basic Kutei and the Kutei 90s. The differences you can watch it here: different assault rifle, different machine gun, different rocket launcher. And the Kutei 90 come also In the well, it's kind of interesting because the 90 version can come in a Humvee, while the normal one, the 75 version, just come in helicopters. Then you have the line infantry, which is the Souhan. Sorry for the pronunciation. Japanese is obviously not my favorite language to speak, and comes into flavors. In the 90 and the 75 flavors, again, different rifle, different rocket launcher, different. Well, the machine gun is actually the same. And the transports are Nanasan-Shiki and the Humvee for the 75 version, Humvee, Nanasan-Shiki, and Hachikyushiki for the 90 version. Now let's take a look at the Koreans, and let's start with the anti-aircraft. We have Mistrals, pretty strong AA, which come in the M113, the K200, the KM900, and the Huey. Then you have the Red Eye in pretty much the same transports, the Stinger in pretty much the same transports, the PSAM. Well, actually, no, the PSAM is in Japanese, sorry. So those are the three. I was kind of surprised to see so many down there. Infantry anti-tank, you only get M67 RLC, which are the rocket launchers. You don't get ATGMs with the South Koreans. Well, as you can see, the Japanese do have ATGMs. Next in line, rifle, infantry. I'm actually going to show both engineer and rifle. Engineer, you have a flamethrower, which is actually a napalm deployer more than flamethrower. This is the Gongbyung, which come in the N113, K200, KM900, and the Huey. Then you have the Haebyung, which is shock infantry, comes in two different flavors, the 75 and the 90 versions. You can see the differences here. The Haebyung 90 has a strong, really strong rocket launcher ATM. They come all in choppers. Well, they come in choppers and in LVPT7s. Now, line infantry is the Sochong-Su, which come also into flavors, the 75 and the 85 version. So the 85 can come in Cat B decks. Pretty standard transport for the 75 version. The 85 version can also come in the KAFV 25, which is, let's see if we can watch it, is a troop transport, is an AFV actually, and in the KAFV 4050, which is, this one has an autocannon, this one has a grenade launcher, and it also can come in Hueys. For elite infantry, they have the UDT Seal, which can come in KM900, LVPT7, Bell 205, in Blackhawks, and in Hueys. And finally, they also get reservists in the Yebigun, which is very cheap, but yeah, well, let's say that is not the best infantry around. So that's for the infantry. Let's go for the support. Let's start with the Japanese. Let's go again, roll by roll. Self-propelled anti-aircraft guns. You have the M42, sorry, AAG, and the Guntank, which is a pretty nice AA self-propeller gun. This is actually like a Japanese Gepard, if you are familiar with the German units. Now, for missiles, you have the Hawk, the Tan-SAM, which is an infrared guided missiles, and the Type 93, which is pretty much an Avenger with Stinger missiles. Then we go to the howitzers. And we have the 105 SP, which is a very short range howitzer. 115 SP, medium range, 155 millimeter howitzer, and the 203 SP, which is the sniping 203 millimeter howitzer. Rocket launchers, you have the 75 MSSR, which is a rocket launcher with 130 millimeter rounds. And finally, mortars. The 81 MSP, which is a M113 with an 81 millimeter mortar, and the 107 MSP, which is pretty much the same but with a bigger mortar. Meanwhile, the Koreans get for the self-propelled anti-aircraft guns the KM163, which is like a non-radar guided PBATS, the K263, which is a radar guided PBATS. These are the Vulcan and the PBATS. They are very similar to the American versions. This one is radar guided, this one not. And finally, the Ki-30 BHO, which is again a very similar unit to the German Gepard. Radar guided, very accurate, pretty dangerous, close and dirty. Next in line, the missiles. You only get the IHawk and the IHawk PIP-2. Pretty limited choice here. You don't have any air missiles in the South Korean. As for howitzers, you have the K55, 155 millimeter howitzer, the KM107, 175 millimeter howitzer, very long range, hard hitting, sniper arty, and the KM1110, which is 203 millimeter rounds, sniping arty, but with not such a big range. Moving on, we have the rocket launcher artillery, the K136, 130 millimeter rocket launcher in a truck. And mortars, the K281, which is pretty much an 81 millimeter mortar in a M113, the KM106, pretty much the same but with a 177 millimeter howitzer, and the K242, which is a different version of the mortar of the 107 millimeter mortar. You can see the differences are mostly related with the vehicle. This one is slightly faster, and yeah, that's mostly it. Well, and has a little bit more armor. Now, for the tanks, let's go for the Japanese. Let's start simple, from the very humble things. 10 points, Roku Ichishiki. With a 90mm gun, well, yeah, this you get a lot of this if you want. This is spammable light tanks with, well, yeah, they are going to die very quickly. Then you have the Nana Yonshiki family, starting with the A version with a 100mm gun. The C version, let's actually go in increments so you can compare them with taking a look right here, which is the difference. Oh yeah, this one is not hit, it's kinetic, which has more AP power. Then we have the E version, which is 55 points and incorporates longer range, a better gun basically. And finally the Nana Yonshiki G, which compares with the previous one in an even better gun with better AP power and better armor. Slightly slower, however. Also, it has a grenade launcher instead of a machine gun. Then you have the M41A1, another spammable, very spammable 10-point tank. And finally, the heavy for the Japanese, which is the Kiumaru Shiki with a 120mm gun, very strong frontal armor. This is a really powerful tank. So those are the Japanese tanks. South Koreans start with, they have the M48 line and the K1 line. The M48A3K, 20 points, nothing too spectacular, but it's a pretty decent 20-point tank. I mean, it's pretty high accuracy for that cost. Then you have the M48A5K. So you can compare them, which is a huge improvement in the gun, basically. Then you have the M48, A5K2. Again, another huge increase in the gun. The vehicle stays pretty much the same, it's very lightly armored, but for 45 points, this gun is nothing to sneeze about. This is actually a pretty capable gun. Then we have the K1. These are the heavies. The vanilla K1 with a 105mm cannon, and the K1A1, which is a much improved version of the tank with stronger armor, a much better gun, and I was going to say even faster, but no, it's not actually faster. Well, however, it has medium optics, while the K1 has only poor, and that can be a very big difference, believe me. So yeah, those are the tanks for the Blue Dragons. Next in line comes the Recon. Hachina Nashiki is an APC Recon with an autocannon, good optics. Rangers in Humvees and helicopters. Mitsubishi M2, which is pretty much a Jeep with very good optics. The OH-6D, which is a little bird with rockets and only medium optics, which is pretty underwhelming for a recon unit, to be honest. Also, it's very cheap, but yeah. And I think one of the best recon units in the game, the OH-1 Ninja, which is a recon chopper with good stealth, exceptional optics, and 4 stingers. And the stealth, you can actually feel it. This little chopper, it is highly survivable. Let's put it that way. So yep, those are the Japanese recon units. Let's see the South Korean. The South Korean get the K111, which is pretty much a Jeep. The KM900, which is an APC with a machine gun and very good optics. The Fiat 6616, which is pretty much an armored car with very good optics. The KAFB 90, which is well, it's actually a very ugly 90mm recon unit with good optics. The Little Bird, again, this time without any kind of weapons and very good optics. And for the infantry, you have the Susaek Dae, which is regular infantry, regular recon infantry. And then you have the Teuk Yeonsa. I suck at these names. Whatever. This one is elite, 10 strong, very good optics. This is actually a very strong unit. This is actually elite infantry with very good optics. They come in the pretty much standard transport you can get. The KM900, Bell 205, Blackhawk, and Huey. Next, vehicles for the Japanese first. Mitsubishi Jeep with a recoilless rifle. Sorry. The Mitsubishi MAT with the MAT ATGM, which is not exactly the strongest thing around, but still 10 points. You can't get anything better. The EU MAT with a much better ATGM. Only 2 of them, however, still 15 points. Dirt cheap. And the 2 MAT, which is an even better ATGM, but this time with a proper loadout of 4 per vehicle. And then you have the Renzo 106mm, which is um, tiny armored vehicle with a twin recoilless rifle and a machine gun. So those are the vehicles for the Japanese. Let's see the South Koreans. The South Koreans get a Jeep with an Aito and a Jeep with the Aito 2. Then you have the KM132, which is a napalm launcher. This is a flamethrower APC. Then you have another recoilless rifle. This time I said it right. M113, then 113 TOW, and the M113 ITOW. You have the. This is a very funny thing because this is the Hellcat. This is the M18. Yeah, well, as you can expect, of course, has no armor whatsoever, but for 10 points is actually not bad. And believe it or not, you also have the Jackson. Or, well, how it was the Slugger as well. And that was called, this tank was called both ways, the Slugger and the Jackson. With a better armor, 90mm anti-tank gun. This actually, if you play World of Tanks, these two you know very well. And the M450, which is a dual machine gun. Well, actually, this is a quadruple. This is a quadruple machine gun track, basically. Moving on, helicopters. Let's start with the Japanese. Pretty simple choices. You have a Cobra with ITOs and Hydras and a Vulcan 20mm cannon, and you have the Little Bird with 4 TOW missiles. Not a lot to choose from, but yep. Then you have the South Koreans with also Cobras, this time in 2 different versions, 3 different versions actually. The J Cobra with a 20mm Vulcan and a lot of rockets. The S version with the Vulcan, rockets, ITOW. And the T version with the Vulcan, rockets, and TOW 2s. And then you also have the Little Bird with ITOWs. And finally, the planes. Japan gets the F1 jet with 2 pretty crappy short-range missiles and fire and forget semi-active missiles with very, very high HE power. This is a very accurate bomber. Then you have the Starfighter with 4 AAM-1 missiles and huge turning radius. This thing takes half the map to turn around, and a Vulcan, of course. Then you have the F-15J. This is the Eagle with Sparrow missiles and M Sidewinders. This is a very strong unit, actually. Also 40% ECM, and yep. Then you have the Phantom with the Sidewinder L and the Sparrow E. The Sparrow is not really that great, look at that accuracy, but still 100 points. This is a surprisingly effective fighter for its cost. Then you have the Phantom AJK, which has 4 Sparrows and 8 340 kilogram bombs, and also the Vulcan. And finally, yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? The Saber with 2 napalm bombs and 6 Sisticals. So that's for the Japanese. Let's see the South Koreans. The South Koreans get the well, this is a Dragonfly, the A37B, with a mixed loadout, which is actually interesting. A couple AA missiles, which are really crappy, 2 general purpose bombs, and 2 cluster bombs. So this is actually, yeah, a little card of all tricks unit, but it's not really powerful. I mean, the weapons are not really great. Neither of them is. Then you have in my opinion, the strongest anti-helicopter unit in the game. At least anti-helicopter fighter in the game, which is the F-16C Block 30, which has 6 Sidewinder M's and the Vulcan for 100 points. This is a really strong unit. Then you have the F-16C Block 30B, which has 6 AMRAAM missiles. So this is a medium range air superiority fighter. Then you have the Phantom DS with 18 227 kilogram bombs, and the Phantom ES with 3 Mavericks. You have the Freedom Fighter with 4 napalm canisters, and another Freedom Fighter, this time with 6 AA missiles, Sidewinders. Of course, the thing is, if you compare it with the Block 30, I mean, the missiles, they just for the HE power, I mean, this is 5 versus 4. This kills a Hind in 2 missiles, while this needs 3. Just for that reason, yeah. But still, this is a pretty, and the Freedom Fighter is a pretty strong fighter for its cost, honestly. Then you also have the option to load the Saber, but this time with Sunni rockets. You get 16 of those. And finally, an extremely powerful unit, the KF-16, which is a very advanced version of the Fighting Falcon. This has 4 AMRAAM medium range missiles and 2 SEAD harms. So this is a mixed fighter and SEAD fighter with exceptional ECM of 50% and medium stealth. This is one of the best planes in the game. And the cost, of course, kind of says it is. And 170 points, this is not cheap at all. So yeah, that's the decks. That's the deck. That's the selection of units you get in the Blue Dragons deck. Remember, combined Japanese and South Koreans units to tailor the deck you want. I would say that this is actually a very strong deck, because taking apart, the South Korean and the Japanese both have very strong fields and very weak points, but combined they are pretty much very good all across the board. They have pretty strong units. So yeah, guys, I hope you had fun. I hope you liked this video. I hope you found the Korean and Japanese units interesting. As always, thank you very much for watching, and see you later.